Okay, welcome in. Good evening, grizzly bears. We have a little extra stream this week. I don't usually get to stream at this time, but I just so happen to have an empty house here, so here I go. This will make up for next week when I will be on vacation and there will be no streams. So tonight we will be continuing with reading poems by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. We left off with the last stream we had just read, Sunrise on the Hills. And the next poem here is called The Spirit of Poetry. It is a very long and prosy poem, so buckle up, I guess. The Spirit of Poetry. There is a quiet spirit in these woods that dwells where'er the gentle south wind blows, where underneath the white thorn in the glade the wild flowers bloom, or kissing the soft air, the leaves above their sunny palms outspread, with what a tender and impassioned voice it fills the nice and delicate ear of thought, when the fast ushering star of morning comes, o'erriding the gray hills with golden scarf, or when the cowled, dusky sandaled eve, in morning weeds from out the western gate, departs with silent pace. That spirit moves in the green valley where the silver brook from its full laver pours the white cascade, and babbling low amid the tangled woods, slips down through moss-grown stones with endless laughter. And frequent on the everlasting hills its feet go forth when it doth wrap itself in all the dark embroidery of the storm, and shouts the stern, strong wind. And here, amid the silent majesty of these deep woods, its presence shall uplift thy thoughts from earth, as to the sunshine and the pure, bright air their tops the green trees lift. Hence gifted bards have ever loved the calm and quiet shades. For them there was an eloquent voice in all the sylvan pomp of woods, the golden sun, the flowers, the leaves, the river on its way, blue skies and silver clouds and gentle winds, the swelling upland where the sidelong sun aslant the wooded slope at evening grows, through whose broken roof the sky looks in, mountain and shattered cliff and sunny vale, the distant lake, fountains, and mighty trees. in many a lazy syllable, repeating their old poetic legends to the wind. And this is the sweet spirit that doth fill the world. And in these wayward days of youth, my busy fancy oft embodies it, as a bright image of the light and beauty that dwell in nature, of the heavenly forms we worship in our dreams, and the soft hues that stain the wild bird's wing, and flush the clouds when the sun sets. Within her tender eye the heaven of April, with its changing light, and when it wears the blue of May is hung, and on her lip the rich red rose. Her hair is like the summer tresses of the trees, when twilight makes them brown, and on her cheek blushes the richness of an autumn sky, with ever-shifting beauty. Then her breath, it is so like the gentle air of spring, as front the morning's dewy flowers it comes, full of their fragrance, that it is a joy to have it round us. And her silver voice is the rich music of a summer bird, heard in the still night, with its passionate cadence. That was The Spirit of Poetry by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Hello, Baka Valentine, good evening, or good night, or good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. Welcome back to the stream. I hope you're having a good day. I'm doing very well myself. I've been looking forward to having a relaxing evening of poetry. So, next up we have another long prosy poem called Burial of the Minisink, or Minisink. I'm not sure. I don't know what that is. Let's look it up. It is a nature reservation in New Jersey. Interesting. And Longfellow wrote a poem about it. On sunny slope and beach and swell, the shadowed light of evening fell, and where the maple's leaf was brown, with soft and silent laps came down the glory that the wood receives at sunset in its golden leaves. Far upward, in the mellow light, rose the blue hills, one cloud of white around a far uplifted cone. In the warm blush of evening shone an image of the silver lakes by which the Indian soul awakes. But soon a funeral hymn was heard, where the soft breath of evening stirred the tall gray forest, and a band of stern in heart and strong in hand came winding down beside the wave to lay the red chief in his grave. They sang that by his native bowers he stood in the last moon of flowers, and 30 snows had not yet shed their glory on the warrior's head. But as the summer fruit decays, so died he in those naked days. A dark cloak of the roebuck's skin covered the warrior, and within its heavy folds the weapons made for the hard toils of war were laid. The cuirass woven of plaited reeds, and the broad belt of shells and beads. Before, a dark-haired virgin train chanted the death dirge of the slain. Behind, the long procession came of hoary men and chiefs of fame, with heavy hearts and eyes of grief, leading the war horse of their chief. Stripped of his proud and martial dress, uncurbed, unreined, and riderless, with darting eye and nostril spread, and heavy and impatient tread, he came, and oft that eye so proud asked for his rider in the crowd. They buried the dark chief, they freed beside the grave his battle steed, and swift an arrow cleaved its way to his stern heart. One piercing neigh arose, and on the dead man's plain the rider grasps his steed again. That was Burial of the Minnesink. I assume after reading that must have been a tribe of Native Americans, and that nature preserve in New Jersey is named after them. Next up, we have a poem called L'Envoi. That's French. But the poem, thankfully, is in English because my French is not very good. Ye voices that arose after the evening's close, and whispered to my restless heart repose. Go breathe it in the ear of all who doubt and fear, and say to them, be of good cheer. Ye sounds so low and calm that in the groves of balm seem to me like an angel's psalm. Go mingle yet once more with the perpetual roar of the pine forests dark and hoar. Tongues of the dead not lost, but speaking from death's frost, like fiery tongues at Pentecost. Glimmer as funeral lamps amid the chills and damps of the vast plain where death encamps. Okay, we are now starting another section. This section is titled Ballads and Other Poems. And it starts with a poem called The Skeleton in Armor, which looks very long. This is like 4 screenfuls of text. It looks like it tells a bit of a story, so I guess that's why it's in the ballads section. I'm going to hydrate a bit before I undertake reading this. Okay, here we go. The Skeleton in Armor. Speak, speak, I, thou fearful guest, who with thy hollow breast, still in rude armor dressed, comest to daunt me. Wrap not in eastern balms, bat, with thy fleshless palms stretched, as if asking alms. Why dost thou haunt me? Then from those cavernous eyes pale flashes seemed to rise, as when the northern skies gleam in December, and like the water's flow under December's snow came a dull voice of woe from the heart's chamber. I was a Viking old, my deeds, though manifold, no skald in song has told, no saga taught thee. Take heed that in thy verse thou dost the tale rehearse, else dread a dead man's curse. For this I sought thee. Hello, Jeffrey. Welcome to the stream. And welcome to the Grizzly Bears. Thank you for the follow. Far in the northern land, by the wild Baltic strand, I, with my childish hand, tamed the gerfalcon, and with my skates fast bound, skimmed the half-frozen sound that the poor whimpering hound trembled to walk on. Oft to his frozen lair tracked I the grizzly bear, while from my path the hare fled like a shadow. Oft through the forest dark followed the werewolf's bark, until the soaring lark sang from the meadow. But when I older grew, joining a corsair's crew, o'er the dark sea I flew with the marauders. Wild was the life we led, many the souls that sped, many the hearts that bled by our stern orders. Many a wassail bout wore the long winter out. Often our midnight shout set the cocks crowing, as we the berserk's tale measured in cups of ale, draining the oaken pail, filled to o'erflowing. Once, as I told in glee tales of the stormy sea, soft eyes did gaze on me, burning yet tender. And as the white stars shine on the dark Norway pine, on that dark heart of mine fell their soft splendor. I wooed the blue-eyed maid, yielding yet half afraid, and in the forest's shade our vows were plighted. Under its loosened vest fluttered her little breast, like birds within their nest by the hawk frighted. Bright in her father's hall, shields gleamed upon the wall. Loud sang the minstrels all, chanting his glory. When of old Hildebrand I asked his daughter's hand, mute did the minstrel stand to hear my story. While the brown ale he quaffed, loud then the champion laughed, and as the wind gusts waft the sea foam brightly, so the loud laugh of scorn out of those lips unshorn from the deep drinking horn blew the foam lightly. She was a prince's child, I but a Viking wild, and though she blushed and smiled, I was discarded. Should not the dove so white follow the sea mew's flight? And why did they leave that night her nest unguarded? Scarce had I put to sea, bearing the maid with me. Fairest of all was she among the Norsemen, when on the white sea strand, waving his armed hand, saw we old Hildebrand with 20 horsemen. Then launched they to the blast, bent like a reed each mast, yet we were gaining fast when the wind failed us. And with a sudden flaw came round the gusty scaw, so that our foe we saw laugh as he hailed us. And as to catch the gale, round veered the flapping sail. Death, I was the helmsman hail, death without quarter. Midships with iron keel struck we her ribs of steel. Down her black hulk did reel through the black water. As with his wings aslant sails the fierce cormorant, seeking some rocky haunt with his prey laden, so toward the open main, beating to sea again, through the wild hurricane bore I the maiden. 3 weeks we westward bore, and when the storm was o'er, cloud-like we saw the shore stretching to leeward. There for my lady's bower built I the lofty tower, which to this very hour stands looking seaward. There lived we many years. Time dried the maiden's tears. She had forgot her fears. She was a mother. Death closed her maud blue eyes. Under that tower she lies. Ne'er shall the sun arise on such another. Still grew my bosom then, still as a stagnant fen. Hateful to me were men, the sunlight hateful. In the vast forest here, clad in my warlike gear, fell I upon my spear. O death was grateful. Thus seamed with many scars, bursting these prison bars, up to its native stars my soul ascended. There from the flowing bowl deep drinks the warrior soul. Skål to the Northland, skål. Thus the tale ended. That was a very long poem called The Skeleton in Armor by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And now Jeffrey Jeffrey Mag Kexa. I can give you a proper greeting. Welcome to the Grizzly Bears. Thank you for the follow. And I'm very pleased to have you here. And you are absolutely welcome to sleep in my stream. I do try to take care not to wake anybody up who might be sleeping. Next up we have a poem called The Village Blacksmith. This one is also long. I'm going to pin a slight warning in the chat here. There we go. Just in case anybody else comes in. Okay. The Village Blacksmith by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and sinewy hands. And the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. His hair is crisp and black and long. His face is like the tan. His brow is wet with honest sweat. He earns whate'er he can, and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. Week in, week out, from morn till night, you can hear his bellows blow. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge with measured beat and slow, like a sexton ringing the village bell when the evening sun is low. And children coming home from school look in at the open door. They love to see the flaming forge and hear the bellows roar, and catch the burning sparks that fly like chaff from a threshing floor. He goes on Sunday to the church and sits among his boys. He hears the parson pray and preach. He hears his daughter's voice singing in the village choir, and it makes his heart rejoice. It sounds to him like her mother's voice, singing in paradise. He needs must think of her once more, how in the grave she lies. And with his hard, rough hand he wipes a tear out of his eyes. Toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing, onward through life he goes. Each morning sees some task begin. Each evening sees it close. Something attempted, something done, has earned a night's repose. Thanks to thee, my worthy friend, for the lesson thou hast taught. Thus, at the flaming forge of life, our fortunes must be wrought. Thus, on its sounding anvil shaped, each burning deed and thought. That was The Village Blacksmith by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I quite liked it. It was a little sappy. I haven't heard that one before, but I quite liked it. I hope you enjoyed it also. Hello, Realm Babe. Welcome to the Grizzly Bears. Thank you for the follow. We are reading poems by Longfellow. I hope you enjoy your stay here. I'm pleased to have you. The next poem is Endymion. This is another long ballad. So I'm going to take a quick break, hydrate a bit to prepare. All right, Endymion. Oh, hello, Fanto. Welcome to the stream. It's good to see you able to chat at last. We're reading Longfellow. I hope you enjoy your stay here. Endymion. The rising moon has hid the stars. Her level rays like golden bars lie on the landscape green, with shadows brown between. And silver white the river gleams, as if Diana in her dreams had dropped her silver bow upon the meadows low. On such a tranquil night as this, she woke Endymion with a kiss. When sleeping in the grove, he dreamed not of her love. Like Dian's kiss, unasked, unsought, love gives itself, but is not bought. Nor voice nor sound betrays its deep, impassioned gaze. It comes, the beautiful, the free, the crown of all humanity, in silence and alone, to seek the elected one. It lifts the boughs, whose shadows deep are life's oblivion, the soul's sleep, and kisses the closed eyes of him who slumbering lies. O weary hearts, O slumbering eyes, O drooping souls whose destinies are fraught with fear and pain, ye shall be loved again. No one is so accursed by fate, no one so utterly desolate. But some heart, though unknown, responds unto his own. Responds as if with unseen wings an angel touched its quivering strings, and whispers in its song, where hast thou stayed so long? Thank you for the lurk, Fantel. Please enjoy your stay here. That was Endymion. Next up we have a poem called It Is Not Always May. And this poem opens with a line from a Spanish proverb. I'm going to attempt to read it, but please forgive my Spanish. No hay pájaros en los nidos de antaño. So I know no hay pájaros means there are not birds. En los nidos de antaño, I don't know what that means. Anyway, the poem continues. The sun is bright, the air is clear, the darting swallows soar and sing, and from the stately elms I hear the bluebird prophesying spring. So blue you winding river flows, it seems an outlet from the sky, where waiting till the west wind blows, the frighted clouds at anchor lie. All things are new, the buds, the leaves, that gild the elm trees' nodding crest, and even the nest beneath the eaves. There are no birds in last year's nest. All things rejoice in youth and love, the fullness of their first delight, and learn from the soft heavens above the melting tenderness of night. Maiden that readst this simple rhyme, enjoy thy youth, it will not stay. Enjoy the fragrance of thy prime, for oh, it is not always May. Enjoy the spring of love and youth, to some good angel leave the rest, for time will teach thee soon the truth. There are no birds in last year's nest. That was It Is Not Always May. And good evening, sucking Tom Cruise's toes. I'm very glad to see you in the stream tonight, so that I can thank you for the donation you made a couple of days ago to give directly. My stream alerts were broken, so I didn't see it. I didn't notice it at the time. And I didn't have an opportunity to give you a shout out, but there's your shout out. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy your stay tonight. The next poem is called The Rainy Day. That's very nice of you. The day is cold and dark and dreary. It rains and the wind is never weary. The vine still clings to the moldering wall, but at every gust the dead leaves fall, and the day is dark and dreary. My life is cold and dark and dreary. It rains and the wind is never weary. My thoughts still cling to the moldering past, but the hopes of youth fall thick in the blast, and the days are dark and dreary. Be still, sad heart, and cease repining. Behind the clouds is the sun still shining. Thy fate is the common fate of all. Into each life some rain must fall. Some days must be dark and dreary. That's a nice little poem called The Rainy Day. Next up we have a poem called God's Acre. I like that ancient Saxon phrase which calls the burial ground God's acre. It is just. It consecrates each grave within its walls and breathes a benison o'er the sleeping dust. God's acre, yes, that blessed name imparts comfort to those who in the grave have sown the seed that they had garnered in their hearts. Their bread of life, alas, no more their own. Into its furrows shall we all be cast, in the sure faith that we shall rise again. At the great harvest, when the archangel's blast shall winnow, like a fan, the chaff and grain. Then shall the good stand in immortal bloom, in the fair gardens of that second birth, and each bright blossom mingle its perfume with that of flowers which never bloomed on earth. With thy rude plowshare, death, turn up the sod, and spread the furrow for the seed we sow. This is the field and acre of our God. This is the place where human harvests grow. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. The next poem is called To the River Charles. River, that in silence windest through the meadows bright and free, till at length thy rest thou findest in the bosom of the sea. 4 long years of mingled feeling, half in rest and half in strife, I have seen thy waters stealing onward like the stream of life. Thou hast taught me, silent river, many a lesson deep and long. Thou hast been a generous giver. I can give thee but a song. Oft in sadness and in illness, I have watched thy current glide, till the beauty of its stillness overflowed me like a tide. And in better hours and brighter, when I saw thy waters gleam, I have felt my heart beat lighter and leap upward with thy stream. Not for this alone I love thee, nor because thy waves of blue from the celestial seas above thee take their own celestial hue. Where yon shadowy woodlands hide thee, and thy waters disappear, friends I love have dwelt beside thee, and have made thy margin dear. More than this, thy name reminds me of 3 friends, all true and tried, and that name like magic binds me closer, closer to thy side. Friends, my soul with joy remembers, how like quivering flames they start when I fan the living embers on the hearthstone of thy heart. 'Tis for this, thou silent river, that my spirit leans to thee. Thou hast been a generous giver. Take this idle song from me. That was To the River Charles by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I am going to take a very quick break to visit the little bear's room, and then we will continue. Oh, goodness. The next poem in this collection is called Blind Bartimaeus, and it is in a mix of English and Greek. And the Greek is actually using the Greek alphabet. I think I'm going to skip that one, if you all don't mind, because I don't read Greek. So when I return in just a couple of moments, we'll continue with a poem entirely in English called The Goblet of Life. Be right back. Okay, so skipping right over the Greek poem. This poem is called The Goblet of Life, and it's a long ballad once again, so buckle up. Filled is life's goblet to the brim, and though my eyes with tears are dim, I see its sparkling bubbles swim and chant a melancholy hymn with solemn voice and slow. No purple flowers, no garlands green conceal the goblet's shade or sheen, nor maddening draughts of hippocrene like gleams of sunshine flash between thick leaves of mistletoe. This goblet, wrought with curious art, is filled with waters that upstart when the deep fountains of the heart by strong convulsions rent apart, are returning all to waste. And as it mantling passes round, with fennel it is wreathed and crowned, whose seed and foliage sun embrowned are in its waters steeped and drowned, and give a bitter taste. Above the lowly plants it towers, the fennel with its yellow flowers, and in an earlier age than ours was gifted with the wondrous powers lost vision to restore. It gave new strength and fearless mood, and gladiators fierce and rude mingled it in their daily food, and he who battled and subdued a wreath of fennel wore. Then in life's goblet freely press the leaves that give it bitterness, nor prize the colored waters less, for in thy darkness and distress new light and strength they give. And he who has not learned to know how false its sparkling bubbles show, how bitter are the drops of woe with which its brim may overflow, he has not learned to live. The prayer of Ajax was for light. Through all that dark and desperate fight, the blackness of that noonday night, he asked but the return of sight to see his foeman's fate. Let our unceasing earnest prayer be too for light, for strength to bear our portion of the weight of care that crushes into dumb despair one half the human race. O suffering, sad humanity, O ye afflicted one who lie, steeped to the lips in misery, longing, and yet afraid to die, patient, though sorely tried, I pledge you in this cup of grief, where floats the fennel's bitter leaf. The battle of our life is brief. The alarm, the struggle, the relief. Then sleep we, side by side. That was The Goblet of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And next we have a poem called Maidenhood. Maiden with the meek brown eyes, in whose orbs a shadow lies like the dusk in evening skies. Thou whose locks outshine the sun, golden tresses wreathed in one as the braided streamlets run. Standing with reluctant feet where the brook and river meet, womanhood and childhood fleet. Gazing with a timid glance on the brooklet's swift advance, on the river's broad expanse. Deep and still that gliding stream, beautiful to thee must seem, as the river of a dream. And why pause with indecision when bright angels in thy vision beckon thee to fields Elysian. Seest thou shadows sailing by, as the dove with startled eye sees the falcon's shadow fly? Hearest thou voices on the shore that our ears perceive no more, deafened by the cataract's roar? O thou child of many prayers, life hath quicksands, life hath snares, care and age come unawares. Like the swell of some sweet tune, morning rises into noon, May glides onward into June. Childhood is the bough where slumbered birds and blossoms many numbered. Age that bough with snows encumbered. Gather then each flower that grows when the young heart overflows to embalm that tent of snows. Bear a lily in thy hand, gates of brass cannot withstand one touch of that magic wand. Bear through sorrow, wrong, and ruth in thy heart the dew of youth, on thy lips the smile of truth. Oh, that dew like balm shall steal into wounds that cannot heal, even as sleep our eyes doth seal. And that smile like sunshine dart into many a sunless heart, for a smile of God thou art. That was Maidenhood by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And I think I need to hydrate before taking on the next poem. Okay, the next poem is called Excelsior. The shades of night were falling fast, as though an alpine village passed a youth who bore mid snow and ice a banner with the strange device Excelsior. His brow was sad, his eye beneath flashed like a falchion from its sheath, and like a silver clarion rung the accents of that unknown tongue, Excelsior. In happy homes he saw the light of household fires gleam warm and bright. Above the spectral glaciers shone, and from his lips escaped a groan, Excelsior. Try not the pass, the old man said. Dark lowers the tempest overhead. The roaring torrent is deep and wide. And loud that clarion voice replied, Excelsior. Oh, stay, the maiden said, and rest thy weary head upon this breast. A tear stood in his bright blue eye, but still he answered with a sigh, Excelsior. Beware the pine tree's withered branch. Beware the awful avalanche. This was the peasant's last good night. A voice replied, far up the height, Excelsior. At break of day, as heavenward the pious monks of Saint Bernard uttered the oft-repeated prayer, a voice cried through the startled air, Excelsior. A traveler, by the faithful hound, half buried in the snow, was found, still grasping in his hand of ice that banner with the strange device, Excelsior. There in the twilight cold and gray, lifeless but beautiful he lay. And from the sky, serene and far, a voice fell like a falling star, Excelsior. The next poems are in a section of poems on slavery. And I think I know that Longfellow was an advocate of the abolition of slavery, but I want to be careful about reading any poems on this subject on stream. So I'm going to read through those myself off stream and then come back to them if I find them appropriate. And then the next thing in this collection is a play. And reading plays can be fun, but I think it's not really what I want for this particular stream. So I will also skip over that. It's a very long play. I could probably make a whole stream out of just this play. I'm just flipping through it and it just keeps going. I'm in Act 3 now. Okay, and finally, we are back into poems. This is a section of poems called The Belfry of Bruges and Other Poems. The first poem in this section is called Caroline. In the ancient town of Bruges, in this quaint old Flemish city. As the evening shades descended, low and loud and sweetly blended, low at times and loud at times, and changing like a poet's rhymes, rang the beautiful wild chimes from the belfry in the market of the ancient town of Bruges. Then, with deep, sonorous clangor, calmly answering their sweet anger, when the wrangling bells had ended, slowly struck the clock 11, and from out the silent heaven silence on the town descended. Silence, silence everywhere, on the earth and in the air, save the footsteps here and there of some burgher home returning. By the street lamps faintly burning, for a moment woke the echoes of the ancient town of Bruges. But amid my broken slumbers, still I heard those magic numbers, as they loud proclaimed the flight and stolen marches of the night, till their chimes in sweet collision mingled with each wandering vision, mingled with the fortune-telling gypsy bands of dreams and fancies, which amid the waste expanses of the silent land of trances have their solitary dwelling. All else seemed asleep in Bruges, in the quaint old Flemish city. And I thought how like these chimes are the poet's airy rhymes, all his rhymes and roundelays, his conceits and songs and ditties, from the belfry of his brain, scattered downward, though in vain, on the roofs and stones of cities. For by night our drowsy ear under its curtains cannot hear, and by day men go their ways, hearing the music as they pass, but deeming it no more, alas, than the hollow sound of brass. Yet, perchance, a sleepless wight, lodging at some humble inn in the narrow lanes of life, when the dusk and hush of night shut out the incessant din of daylight and its toil and strife, may listen with a calm delight to the poet's melodies, till he hears, or dreams he hears, intermingled with the song, thoughts that he has cherished long, hears amid the chime and singing the bells of his own village ringing, and wakes and finds his slumberous eyes wet with most delicious tears. Thus dreamed I, as by night I lay in Bruges at the Fleur de Blé, listening with a wild delight to the chimes that through the night banged their changes from the belfry of that quaint old Flemish city. That was a poem called Caroline by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. The next poem is called The Belfry of Bruges. In the marketplace of Bruges stands the belfry, old and brown, thrice consumed and thrice rebuilded. Still it watches o'er the town. As the summer morn was breaking on that lofty tower I stood, and the world threw off the darkness like the weeds of widowhood. Thick with towns and hamlets studded, and with streams and vapors gray, like a shield embossed with silver round and vast the landscape lay. At my feet the city slumbered, from its chimneys here and there wreaths of snow-white smoke ascending vanished ghost-like into air. Not a sound rose from the city at that early morning hour, but I heard a heart of iron beating in the ancient tower. From their nests beneath the rafters sang the swallows, wild and high, and the world beneath me sleeping seemed more distant than the sky. Then, most musical and solemn, bringing back the olden times, with their strange, unearthly changes rang the melancholy chimes. Like the psalms from some old cloister, when the nuns sing in the choir, and the great bell tolled among them like the chanting of a friar. Visions of the days departed, shadowy phantoms filled my brain. They who live in history only seem to walk the earth again. All the foresters of Flanders, mighty Baldwin Bras de Fer, Liederic Dubuc, and Crécy Philippe, Guy de Dampierre. I beheld the pageants splendid that adorned these days of old. Stately dames like queens attended, knights who bore the fleece of gold. Lombard and Venetian merchants, with deep laden argosies, ministers from 20 nations, more than royal pomp and ease. I beheld proud Maximilian kneeling humbly on the ground. I beheld the gentle Mary hunting with her hawk and hound, and her lighted bridal chamber where a duke slept with the queen, and the armed guard around them and the sword unsheathed between. I beheld the Flemish weavers with Namur and Juliers bold, marching homeward from the bloody battle of the spurs of gold. Saw light at Minnewater, saw the white hoods moving west, saw a great Artevelde victorious scale the golden dragon's nest. And again the whiskered Spaniard all the land with terror smote. And again the wild alarum sounded from the tocsin's throat, till the bell of Ghent responded o'er lagoon and dike of sand. I am Roland, I am Roland, there's victory in the land. Then the sound of drums aroused me. The awakened city's roar chased the phantoms I had summoned back into their graves once more. Hours had passed away like minutes, and before I was aware, lo, the shadow of the belfry crossed the sun-illumined square. That was a poem called The Belfry of Bruges by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. There's quite a lot of history in that poem that I know nothing about. A lot of names that I probably screwed up. If you happen to be a fan of the history of Bruges or the Flemish nation, you have my apologies. I'm just a bear. I have a very small bear brain. It's a miracle I can even read at all. Okay, I sense my voice is a little fatigued. The next poem is a bit long, but I think I can get through it. And then I think that'll be the last one for tonight. My next stream will be in 2 days. Thursday at about the same time. Although it's possible, actually, that I might have a very quick stream tomorrow morning. Be sure to join the Discord if you want to keep up with my schedule. Okay, I'm going to hydrate one last time and then tackle this last poem. Okay, here we go, last poem of the evening. This is called A Gleam of Sunshine by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. This is the place. Stand still, my steed, let me review the scene, and summon from the shadowy past the forms that once have been. The past and present here unite beneath time's flowing tide, like footprints hidden by a brook, but seen on either side. Here runs the highway to the town, there the green lane descends, through which I walked to church with thee, O gentlest of my friends. The shadow of the linden trees lay moving on the grass. Between them and the moving boughs a shadow thou didst pass. Thy dress was like the lilies, and thy heart as pure as they. One of God's holy messengers did walk with me that day. I saw the branches of the trees bend down, thy touch to meet. The clover blossoms in the grass rise up to kiss thy feet. Sleep, sleep today, tormenting cares of earth and folly born, solemnly sang the village choir on that sweet Sabbath morn. Through the closed blinds the golden sun poured in a dusty beam, like the celestial ladder seen by Jacob in his dream. And ever and anon the wind, sweet scented with the hay, torn o'er the hymn brook's fluttering leaves that on the window lay. Long was the good man's sermon, yet it seemed not so to me, for he spake of Ruth the beautiful, and still I thought of thee. Long was the prayer he uttered, yet it seemed not so to me, for in my heart I prayed with him, and still I thought of thee. But now, alas, the place seems changed. Thou art no longer here. Part of the sunshine of the scene with thee did disappear. Though thoughts, deep rooted in my heart, like pine trees dark and high, subdue the light of noon and breathe a low and ceaseless sigh, this memory brightens o'er the past, as when the sun concealed behind some cloud that near us hangs, shines on a distant field. That was A Gleam of Sunshine by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And with that, I will leave you. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you found relaxation and calm and presence, or just sleep, or whatever else you were looking for. Thank you, Fanto, for coming. And I hope you all have a good day, or a good evening, or a good night. Until next time.